Welcome to Middle of the Road, a podcast for runners and would-be runners with busy lives and big appetites. My name is Christy Luke Jones, and sitting opposite me is my much revered co-host, a man who always gives it his personal best. You are one.
Hello, and thank you for that intro.
No worries. You are. What have we got planned for this, which is our maiden episode?
Well, I think as is our maiden episode, we'll take a first step into getting started.
Hit the ground running. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
Just talk about in general what's the general aim. Why do we run?
Okay.
You know, what do we do when taking our first step, and almost like this is our week 0.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Do you pick an event to go to, and we just sort of dig a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah. So rather than kind of assume that you've run already, just that real epiphany moment where you decide that you want to run.
Yes.
Where do you go from there? Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Then we're going to talk about, so once when you've done that, how do you get started? So this could be looking at training plans, and almost like trying to find where you're at.
Yeah, so kind of that kind of week 0, how fit am I? Where can I schedule runs into my busy life? Kind of things like that. Really establishing.
Yeah, the balance and all the other little nuances that you find throughout the way.
Excellent.
And then we move on to sort of equipment, resources that you generally use.
Yeah, so resources like apps, web apps, trackers like Fitbit and things like that.
Yep, and equipment just in general, like shoes, shirts, etc. You name it.
Cool.
For running.
That sounds good.
It's a massive repertoire.
Yeah, there's so much you can look at. I think it's best sometimes to have a little breakdown of what's actually essential and what's just, fashion.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So have you been doing any running this week?
Yeah, I done a little bit this week. So I run on Tuesdays to work.
Mm-hmm.
So I run to the first station stop along the way. It was quite a nice 5-mile run. Did it in about 45 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I can't do that. I mean, what time was that? What time did you run that?
I leave the house around 7 a.m.
Yeah, I know most half marathons and 10Ks or marathons, whatever distance you're doing, it's normally in the morning, and I really struggle with morning runs. Isn't it something like your blood is moving around your body slower after you sleep?
Yeah, because you're sort of in that sleepy state, you're sort of waking up. People generally say, give yourself 20 minutes before you go, but after you run, you generally wake up, so normally it's a good thing that you run in the morning. Get yourself started for the day.
Yeah, I mean, if you can fit it in, we'll talk about this a bit later, it's great if you can do that to boost the start of your day, but for me, it just does not work. But there we go.
But, yeah, that's pretty much it. I played a bit of badminton at the end of the week, and then done my back in, but we'll discuss about like stretching. I think that was the main reason. But
yeah, we'll look at things. We'll look at things like injuries and rest periods and stuff. A real good start to a running podcast. I've not run once this week. World Cup's been on, so normally I do 2 sessions of football a week. So that's my base cardio. Because of the World Cup, that's not happened. It's been cancelled. It's been too hot to run. Personally, that sounds a bit of a cop out, but it's been too hot to run. But I have done some weights.
Right.
So I find weights are good for kind of strengthening the back, strengthening the legs if you do squats or whatever. And for me as well, I've not been able to run. My commute's been pretty long. It's been too hot, like I said. And I just wanted to fit in some exercise to keep that endorphin buzz going and to keep myself ticking over, because otherwise I just get super lazy.
Okay. But weights, do they do much with cardio? Did you do much cardio with the weights, or were you just swinging it about?
No, swinging it about. You're a pro. I did like lower weights with higher numbers of reps. So that in the heat that got me sweating quite a bit. So it was decent. I mean, it's nowhere near what a run would be in terms of cardio, but it definitely means, like I say, I keep ticking over.
You say it's too hot. Surely, wouldn't you say if you run a bit earlier?
Yes, but
then it'll be nice and cooler.
Yeah, but I'll just be a pain all day at work because I get in, I can't shower. Nah.
Yeah, but I don't work with you, so.
Well, yeah, it's fine for you to sit here in your high castle, but yeah, I can't run in the morning. That's me. We'll all have our personal little preferences, but I've done some weights. I'm proud of myself. I don't need to make excuses. But yeah, where do we start? Why would you run?
Why would we run? I think before we kind of dive into that a little bit more, I think a good way is to I looked a little bit in terms of why do other people's reasonings of why they run.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, one of the big things is, health benefits.
Yeah.
It makes healthier hearts, makes you run further, it's good for metabolism and your cardio, and helps lose weight. So it has lots of health benefits.
Yeah, I think I find as well. I've spoken to people that have started running. It helps if you've got insomnia. It helps you. It doesn't necessarily definitely do it, but it can help you sleep better. Because and you get that endorphin buzz, don't you? And that's not just physical health; that's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were saying as well before we recorded, like it's good for anxiety and depression.
Yeah, I think people say that it can create that nice happiness buzz feeling. So as you say, that helps with depression, anxiety, reduce stress. It has so many benefits. Even if you can't find one, it tends to lead to another type of benefit that you don't suspect.
Yeah, I think for me particularly, like bringing in my own personal experience here, as a teenager, I was quite anxious, as many teenagers are. And one of my things that I found was when I did a first run, I got that endorphin buzz, and as well, it acted as a kind of mindfulness. Before mindfulness was really, the hot topic, it was because if you're running on your own, it's very solitary. You're inside your own head. Your mind's telling you, "Oh man, I'm tired." Your legs are like, "I need to stop." And you have to overcome that voice in your head telling you to stop. And that's really good for kind of drawing you away from all of your day's troubles and anxieties. Being really in that moment, trying to mentally force your way through the physical pain barrier.
Yeah.
And I found that great, and I still find it really great for mindfulness. If I've had a bad day, a run is great.
Yeah. And I think on the flip side, if you're not kind of the person that constantly pushes yourself straight through, sometimes it's a nice mentally to block yourself from the entire environment that you're in. So you're running by yourself. You're almost just taking in the scenery and everything, and you're not really focusing on what's happened during the day. It's your own little time that you can take for yourself. Yeah,
and I think as well, like with these days, with it's said all the time, but people kind of attached to their smartphones or their various devices. It's a great opportunity to be outside of that, like you're saying, just literally look around you and focus your eyes away into the distance and clear your mind out.
Yeah, look up and forward rather than down and behind you.
Exactly, unless you're in a race, in which case you need to look behind you But we'll get on to that. We'll get on to being competitive. How did you get started when you did your first run?
So I think there are a variety of reasons of why people actually get started.
But for you personally, how did you kind of...
So for me personally, it was actually through work. I know you could say, younger, I was playing football like literally every single day and I played for a club, but I'm kind of more pinpointing because there was a period of couple of years where I didn't do anything. So work was where I started, where they decided to ask everyone if they wanted to run a half. And then I just went, oh yeah, I'll do it. I don't know why. In a way, I just decided just to say, yeah, I'll do it, even though I have never run that distance before.
I think it's when you're kind of like, I was like 17 when I started running, and there is that sense of, yeah, why the hell not?
Yeah, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, so it's like enthusiasm mixed with naivety. But it's good. I mean, you need to have an element of that. I mean, we'll get onto it, and we've alluded to it already. As you get a bit older, you have to kind of factor in not risking yourself physically. If you've got kids to look after, or if you've got a job, you don't want to be going out and destroying yourself on your first run by doing a half marathon.
Yeah.
But you still need to keep a little bit of that kind of teenage, youthful enthusiasm. Otherwise, you're never going to get out there.
Yeah. But, I mean, for you, how did you kind of start? Like, I know you always talk about, when you were younger, you were like running, just running for fun. But of course, that's younger. How about when there must have been a gap
Yeah,
between your last one?
I think similar to what you said just now. Like when I first did it, it was literally my brother was already a runner, my older brother, and he said, "Why don't you do a half marathon?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And metabolism was on my side, and I could just jump in and run a half marathon, and it was great, and I got that buzz. I think now the motivation is a lot more as matured as I've got older. Really, it's something I know that helps me with my mental and physical well-being, and that combined with the buzz that I still get post-run from all the feel-good hormones and endorphins, I think it's now it's part of my routine that I know is good for me, rather than just I'm going to run that half marathon.
Yeah.
I'm going to get that medal. I'm going to get that personal best. That's all well and good, but you've also got to see now. I think I see the wider benefits.
You're thinking beyond that.
Yeah, I'm thinking beyond that. If I've had a bad day at work, like we said before, I want to go on a run because it's going to clear my head out and make sure that I have a nice relaxed evening. Whereas if I don't, I'm just going to stay pent up. So, now as I've got older, it's a mix of things. But I've still got that enthusiasm and I still want to go out and get a medal and try and get a personal best. It's just a lot. Yeah. It's a bit deeper than that now.
Yeah, it is. And I think when you always look at it, how you started, you always find that moment in your life where you do want to make that change. And I think that it hits you. It's not something that sometimes you can plan it, but it's definitely most of the time. I don't think, like me personally, I don't think it's something that you just think, okay, in a year's time I'm gonna start. It's almost like a New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
But yet you try and continue going on.
Yeah, I think you had that, like we said before, you had that epiphany, that moment when you're like, right, I'm going to take on this challenge, whether it be a 5K, whether it be a 10K, whether it be a half marathon, or whether it be, just literally running 15 minutes around the block.
Yeah.
But you've got to come to that realization that you want to do it. And then you've got to kind of work out, where do I go from here? I've had this great idea to do this.
Yeah.
How do I make that first step?
Yeah. So I guess it's not even, it's kind of like a step. It's like your objective. You want to enter in a half, or you want to go to do your first run, whether it's 5K or even like, it's almost like how do we get started? Like,
yeah, I think for me it's kind of you need to establish where you're at. So the only way you can really do that, in my opinion, is to go on a run and see how you feel.
How long do you think? Like let's say, for me, my opinion would be 30 minutes. But imagine if someone's never run before, and they have no idea what their abilities are like.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I mean, the thing is, with that first run, if you don't know how you're going to do, you need to have very realistic expectations. If you start running and it really, really hurts, you're really out of breath, there's absolutely no shame in stopping and walking.
Yeah.
You need to establish that maximum before you can improve. Because if you literally push yourself through an insane pain barrier on that first run, you're not going to want to run again.
No.
You're not going to want to run again. It's going to put you off.
Yeah.
So you definitely need to be kind on yourself in the early days, and not worry if you don't look at other people and think, oh man, I should be able to run as far as they do. Like we said, running is a you activity.
Yes.
You can run with other people, but at the end of the day, it's you versus your mind. And if your mind's telling you, I need to stop. First, you need to, you can't be fighting that to start with. You've got to really kind of listen to your body a bit and not hurt yourself.
Yeah, and essentially, I think the main thing is just to find almost like level 0.
Yeah.
You don't know, you have no idea what that is.
Yeah, you might run for the first time and easily smash a 5K in a great time.
Yeah.
But equally, you may do 5 meters and think, wow, my lungs feel like they're going to explode. You don't know.
No.
So you need to go out with realistic expectations and adapt to it. And then when you finish that first run, you can sit down and plan out, how you're going to get from where you are to your goal.
Yeah.
But you can't sit down and say, the first week I'm going to do this, second week I'm going to do this, without trying that first run.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people can get too absorbed in that. I think when you're trying to get started, there's so many plans online.
Yeah.
That when you look at it, it can be quite daunting. So, you know, a couple I looked at, and I looked at them before and looked at them. They're pretty similar. That hasn't changed, but you can see it says like, you know, especially if you not run every single day, it's like, oh, run 3 times a day. No,
3 times a week.
Three times a
Jesus,
week.
what is this?
3 times a
US
week.
Marines plan.
And then, you know, you got to, on average, get to, you know, aim to get up to 15 to 20 miles a week.
That's what it's saying.
Yeah, to get to that point.
Wow. Okay. So for me,
that's quite, I mean, those numbers are quite, they're quite big. I mean, even I don't do that.
Yeah, I don't. But if you're just starting out, that is daunting. And the way I kind of look at it, so if I don't run for a while and then I start training for a race, I don't like to have an already filled out schedule that says I need to do this many things a week. I like to have print off a blank month template.
Yeah.
And as and when I do runs, I fill it in. So then it's more it's more kind of, if I fill it in 3 times, fantastic. I look and I see 1, 2, 3.
You put like gold stars on it, like a little light up.
You could do, mate. You don't need to patronise me. You could do.
Silver star, well done.
But yeah, but if you're just starting out and you've got this plan that says I need to do it 3 times, maybe you will do it 3 times and you tick, tick, tick.
Yeah.
But if you don't, for whatever reason, life gets in the way, in your tick, cross, you're gonna feel, there's a chance you're gonna feel bad and you're gonna feel like you're failing.
Yeah.
But if you've got a blank slate and you fill in as and when you do it, it's a lot more motivational in that way, I think.
Yeah.
Again, it's being kind on yourself and not setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. I think, I mean, from my point of view, I kind of like, not do the complete opposite, but my thought process is completely different in terms of, you know, I look at the same. I look at my schedule, but I view it from a lifestyle point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I assess my work, my commute, and just sort of what I do on the weekends and what I do afterwards. So I try and build it into my lifestyle, rather than change my lifestyle for it. So like an example is like, you know, if your job was 9 to 5, you commute an hour each end, and then I always find it harder to motivate myself to put an extra hour on top of that at the end or at the start of the day to do a run or to do any form of exercise.
Yeah, 100%.
So I try and build it in. So say like this run I do on Tuesday to work, I'm just adding an extra 15 minutes to my commute time rather than actually putting in to do a 45-minute session, rather than actually putting an extra hour to include all that in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's if you can do that, it's a smart choice because you get to work and like you said, you feel energized, you've done a run, full of endorphins, you start your day on a high.
Yeah.
Then when you finish the day, the pressure's off. You can go home. You might have a terrible day at work and you're knackered, and you know that you don't need to run. Whereas the trouble I have, you know, I will admit, I get home after an hour commute, and I'm like, okay, I'll just sit down for 5 minutes, then I'll go on a run, and that sit down becomes 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, because it's natural. You're knackered at the end of the day.
Yeah. I understand. So it's like you're going from 5k to couch.
Yeah.
Rather than couch.
You're inverting it. But at the same time, if you can't run in the morning, which I've said I can't, you can, which is great.
Yeah.
The way I do it is when I finish work, I get changed into my running gear, so that when I get home, I'm already in my running gear, and that psychologically makes me more likely to run. So it's finding those little things that aid you to get out the door and run, because you won't regret it. When you get in, like we said, when you get in from running, you're going to feel great.
Yeah.
But that first step out the door is tough.
Yeah, I think you just find those little things and you just try and work around it. So say like, as you say, from your point of view, you get changed before you head home. So it's just like, you realise that packing a kit and putting it in, say like your car, that doesn't take, a minute to pack the bag.
Yeah, exactly.
So it doesn't take that much time. It's just finding little things that you realise it's not going to be like, I need 20 minutes to prepare. I think if you get to that point, then you're kind of a little bit stuck.
Yeah, I think you're making it as easy as possible for yourself. Like you know for a fact that if you don't organise something well and you have to rush, you feel stressed and you don't want to do something. It makes it stressful. Like if you're late for the cinema, you're probably going to enjoy it less because you're going to be stressed when you get there. Same for a run. If you plan everything in and you're able to just nicely go off on your run and come back with plenty of time.
Yeah, but even that sometimes, I think people have to realise you've got to try and minimise the planning in a way as much as possible.
Yeah.
You still have to plan,
Yeah.
but to not make it so that, okay, here's a diary, write your entire 52 weeks at what you're going to do. I think.
What, running wise? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it can be quite daunting.
Yeah, again, it goes back to not setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like on a similar, it just made me think of it actually. Like, you know, if you are running after work, you want to try and find the most scenic route you can. I find like if I know that all I'm going to do is run around some streets and I'm going to double back on myself and cover it and go kind of up a road and then straight back down that same road, I'm probably not going to want to run it.
Yeah.
But if I plan out a nice little circular route, go past some, through some woodland, by a river, I'm way more likely to do that because it helps with that winding down from the work day again.
Yeah, and I think with technology that's available these days, Google Maps is brilliant.
Yeah, and also you might live in the city as well. Bear in mind, crack some music on, whatever it takes to get you out that door and make it not feel like a chore. The sooner you'll get addicted to the buzz.
Yeah. Also, actually, with music, I'm a very one ear in and one ear out.
That generally is a safety thing, isn't it?
That's generally a safety thing, and I think it's kind of, for me, it's like a kindness. Then I'm aware of my surroundings as well.
Yeah, and normally if you go, if you do an organised race, they tend to have that as a stipulation, so that if someone needs to come past you and needs to say, "Oh, I'm coming through on the left," you can hear them, or when you're crossing the road. So try and stick by that, kind of a little bit of a safety tip.
Yeah.
Because running with music is great, but you need to do it the right way.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're talking about getting that first step out the door.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to be wearing when you take that first step out the door?
I think the most important part that you should focus on is the shoes.
Which sounds dumb and obvious, but anything else is optional, really. Anything else is fashion, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you could wear. I wouldn't advise it. You could wear a pair of jeans if you want, but if your footwear is not great, then it's going to cause a lot more problems. Then
that's where the injuries happen. Because it is it can be quite a punishing thing, particularly if you're running on roads.
Yeah, and I find it's something that creeps up on you.
Yeah.
Because you're doing it, every couple of meters, and then it just slowly builds up, and you don't realise it until it's too late.
Yeah.
So
it's like an investment.
Yeah.
You wouldn't kind of, it's you're running, you're on your feet, so you should pay attention to that piece of clothing, and you should get shoes that are specifically running shoes. Yeah.
I think a good gauge is if you're doing anything more than half an hour, then probably that's when you're starting to look at more specialist shoes.
Yeah.
So if it's anything under half an hour, I think a general all-round sports shoes, if it feels comfortable and it's the right fit on your feet, then I think you can use it and run wherever you need. Because when I first started, I went to Decathlon, bought a pair of shoes, probably like 25 quid.
Yeah.
And they did the job, but I realised that when I started running a bit further, so more like into 45 minutes an hour, some issues started to appear, blisters and stuff like that. They started to appear, and I realised at that point I needed to change.
Yeah, so that's like for anyone who's in a country where they don't have Decathlon. Decathlon's like a big multi-sports store, so they do everything. So you're not going to go in there and ask a question about running shoes, and they're going to give you a full lowdown on which running shoes you need.
Yeah.
It might have a little thing under the name of the shoe that says, "Oh, this is for middle distance running or long distance running."
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, you need to go somewhere a little bit more specialist if you're going to if you're going to make it a hobby, or if you aim to make it a hobby of running. In the UK, we have a shop called Sweatshop.
Yep.
Which is as you know, a specialist running shop, if you go in and you say what you're going to, you give them the lowdown of how far you want to run, they will give you the right shoe. Because people's feet are different. You can have flat feet, you can have a high arch. You might lean on one foot more than the other. You might go down with your heel first, front of your foot first.
Heel striker or something like that.
Yeah. And they will actually, if you want, they'll actually put you on a treadmill, and with the technology they've got, they can map your feet out.
Yeah, they call it a gait analysis.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, okay. So they measure all of that and be able to try and find the type of style of shoe that matches your strike pattern. Yeah.
So it's not a case of, you know, when I first started running, I was like, oh yeah, I like Nike shoes or I like Adidas shoes. Yeah. You can't do it. You're not very brand loyal, would you say?
No, not really. I think as long as it fits and it's comfortable.
Yeah, you will find with running shoes that you'll go in and you'll try on the brand that you might like from a fashion perspective, and you might start running in it and it feels like absolute crap. And then you try another shoe on, you've never heard of the brand. Like, there's some great running brands that I wouldn't have known of before I started running. Brooks, New Balance, Asics, all shoes that I've worn now that I wouldn't have looked twice at.
Yeah.
But they're comfy and they work, and I've run in them and I've tested them, and they've reduced the kind of stress that I get.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially when it's quite surprising, especially when you run, just the amount of mileage that you do put on.
Mm.
So a general person, training for a marathon can easily do close to 200 to 300 miles before they run their first event. So that's quite a lot of mileage that your shoes have to take.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's like, say you sat at your desk in an office and you're in an uncomfortable position, you would immediately change the position you're in until you feel comfortable. Yeah. So with shoes, you've got to get that. You can't start running without feeling completely comfortable.
Yeah. But the good thing with some places, especially the specialist running shops, is that they have like a thing. So when you buy a new pair of shoes, generally people say you break them in. Mm-hmm. So because they're slightly sized, so you just break them in just to make them softer, and then it just fits your sort of the pattern of your feet
mm-hmm.
a bit better. And some places within like the first week or 10 days, they offer you, a refund if it doesn't quite break in.
Oh, nice.
As well.
I didn't know that.
So some places they do that because there is a certain point where if you run too much, then they can't take it back. So
yeah.
They don't generally refund. But I know some places, just give it a couple of days run if it doesn't feel as right, just to make sure. And then sometimes they do allow that kind of policy.
So it's great as well if if you're literally just starting running for the first time, because if you run for a while, you tend to know if the shoe's going to fit within the shop. If you've not run before, then you're not going to know. So that kind of policy is awesome.
Yeah.
You're not taking a risk then, are you?
What about like just in general, just other clothing? Like what kind of clothing do you wear?
I think
on a run.
I think other than the shoes, the kind of the rest, the kind of shorts and the top, we can go into it in more detail, I think, in other episodes, like what we personally prefer. But I think it's not too essential.
I don't think it needs another episode. You're just shorts.
Yeah, shorts and a t-shirt. I think the most important thing for me, really, and they were when I was first starting out, obviously the shoes, which we've covered, and then the little helpers like the apps, and the websites and things. I find that way more essential than kind of what I'm wearing other than the shoes.
Yeah.
So, for example, in terms of the running apps that you can get, what have we got?
A couple of running apps like Strava's one.
Strava.
Map My Run. Nike actually do one as well. They do a running app. Fitbit as well. They do tracking, not quite to the same level of detail as the other ones.
Yeah, so in terms of the ones that I've used, so Map My Run and Strava, they use GPS so that when you run, it automatically maps out what route you've done, so that you can then do that route again and compare your times and get analysis on your pace. You can join groups with friends and compete against them.
Yep. Or join together combined as well.
See who's running the most miles in a week. Give yourself little targets. generally they'll have, like Map My Run has a calorie counter, so you can kind of combine your fitness with your diet if you're going for a complete lifestyle overhaul. It's just good for motivation because it has that slight addictive nature of a video game where you finish a race and it'll come up with a nice little graphic saying that was your personal best for this month or whatever, and it's just a nice little extra motivator. And that's important for me. I have to see visually in front of me how I'm doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I can't motivate myself.
And sometimes with Map My Run, I always find if you run routes that other people are taking, whether it's a part of it, then sometimes you can actually compete against other people, random people who run that section of the route, and just to see how fast you are. And sometimes it's interesting just to see how many people do actually run particular parts of your route.
Yeah, so if you do a new route for the first time and there's a hill on it, more often than not, when you finish, it will say, oh yeah, this hill, whatever it's called, 50 people have run it in the last year, and you're 14. And that's pretty cool to see, because then you're like, oh man, maybe I'll do that route again and see how quick I can do the hill.
Yeah, and also, the beauty about these apps, I know this is running podcasts, but also, it can use for cycling and all other forms of sports that they're very adaptable.
Yeah, exactly. It will record anything, basically. Also, another good thing, I don't know I think we have mentioned it already, there's a website called Runner's World.
Yeah.
And in terms of even before you get out running, you can search for events in your local area, especially around the UK. I'm sure there's kind of equivalent versions elsewhere. And you can really kind of get an overview of different events and whether they're good for beginners or if they're a bit more challenging if you run before. So, because 5Ks will vary. You'll get a really hilly 5K, you'll get a flat 5K. You don't want to go in on your first one on a super hilly one.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's got feedback from other people.
Yeah, and it's got a nice advanced function to be able to look whether it's a trail path, and you get to filter on all those kind of aspects.
Mm-hmm. So you can tailor it so you can pick exactly the event to suit what you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are, I don't want to be harsh to our friend, but if you are clever enough and realise that you can use Runner's World, then when sometimes your friends try to nag you to do a 10K or something like that.
Yeah.
You can actually search and check the route ahead and see if that's something that you want to do.
Yeah. It just takes away that kind of uncertainty when you just throw yourself into an event without really knowing what's going on. You want to be as comfortable as possible, particularly if it's your first time running. And Runner's World, really, really good. They've also got some training plans on there.
Yeah.
That you can either use verbatim or adapt to how you want to do it. Yeah. I think they've probably got equipment reviews on there as well, footwear and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I think if you're looking at training plans, there's also like lots of other websites. If you look at major big marathon websites, London Marathon or either Great North Run, Brighton Full Marathon, they generally have training plans themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty similar when you look across all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you a good idea of how, you don't necessarily have to copy them, but it gives you an idea of the level that they start at and how they build up each time. So if you need to tone it down, like if some says start straight off 3 days.
But, in a week, you mean?
In a week,
yeah.
But sometimes you can just say, okay, I'm at 1 day a week, and just build it up. So if they go 3 to 5, you then go 1 to 2.
Yeah.
So you just gotta adapt it to your needs.
Yeah, again, like we've been saying all the way through this episode, like when you're starting out, don't overdo it. Find that steady ground that you're on based on where you're at currently with your fitness and how you're feeling about running. If you're not quite sure if it's for you yet, don't push it. Don't put yourself off. Just go at your own pace. And I think one final part, which is I find is really, really good as a starter, is a volunteering event called Park Run, which we've both done. Yeah, I've never volunteered, but you have.
Volunteered a couple of times, but I think in general for both sides, whether you volunteer or participate in this, it's a 5K event that happens every Saturday.
Yeah.
At 9 o'clock.
Yeah, generally, times will vary, but
it's normally always 9. I think some places do start at 9:30.
So these are global. They're all over the world and they're rapidly kind of spreading, aren't
Yeah, I think it started off in UK. It's out in the US. More locations in. I think even as like all the way down to South Africa.
Really nice.
So all it relies on is just volunteers in that area to almost kickstart it up.
And I mean, when you've done it, what you've been a marshal, yeah, where you just kind of.
Yeah, mixture. You'd be a marshal or tail walker.
So that's when you follow the kind of slowest person.
Yeah, right at the back. Just make sure everyone finishes as well. So then the people at the end, they know to look out for you.
Yeah, I think checking out a park run, like you say, is great because if you're not sure about running, it's a very nice, relaxed atmosphere. It's got a community feel to it, and you can kind of dip your toe into the water and see if it's for you. And it's very positive and it's very encouraging.
Yeah.
And it's far you can it's great because you have a little barcode and you can see and you can check your times every week, but it's not essential. You don't have to.
Yeah, definitely.
So it gives you that nice grounding, nice community running event. And then if you want to start stepping up and timing yourself, you can.
Yep.
Cool. So I think that covers it really in terms of where, finding out where you're at, what your aim is, and where you go from there.
Yeah.
What are we going to cover in the kind of why do people want to come back and listen to this podcast? How are we going to help?
I think the best way is because we're kind of like doing almost like telling people this is week 0 and then going to so now you started, what are you going to do next? So I think it's almost best to come on the journey with you. So we're going to do a 10 to 12 week training plan. And we're actually going to follow you, Christy. Because you've got one coming soon. Yeah, so not
kind of first week of October, I've got the Bournemouth half marathon. So Bournemouth's in the south of England, for anyone who doesn't know. So I've got around 10 weeks to train for that. I want to get my goal is that I want to get my personal best, my PB for a half marathon for 2018. So we're going to try and follow me on my 10-week journey, but we're going to make it accessible enough so that whatever your goal is, you can get something out of building up across these 10 weeks. Yeah,
and I think we're also going to build in our kind of point of view of each of the weeks. So sort of like, this is what we should be doing, and then almost like give our opinion of what we think of like that second week, that third week, etc. So it almost shows like the ups and downs of a full training.
Yeah, so we'll obviously start with a training plan in mind, and we'll say what we aim to do, but we'll also then say, that didn't quite happen, so how did I adapt?
Yeah, at the end of 10 weeks, it could be still doing weight training for this.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It might, putting it bluntly, it might go completely tits up, but it's how you react to that, and it's how you fit it around what you do and keep it fun, and not make it a chore. That's the big thing.
Definitely.
You had a pretty good quote, which I think nicely sums up what we've talked about today.
Yeah, I think as we're coming to the end, I think a nice way to sort of finish off and close this, especially as it's our first.
Yep.
So I think the quote is, "Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step."
Exactly. Get outside the front door, and the rest is history.
Exactly.
Cool. Join us next week for the second week of week 2 of our 10-part plan. Send us your comments. We'd like to hear what you think. Send us kind of what you've been doing this week, hopefully more than me. And we'll see you all next week for week 2.
Yeah, see you.